welcome to the most excellent 80s movies podcast. It's the podcast where a filmmaker, a comedian, and their fabulous guests just relentlessly and slowly make their way toward the never-ending goal of revisiting the 80s movies that we think we love or might have missed with these, our modern adult eyes, in order to determine how well they hold up, if at all, in some cases. And today we watched The Terminator, a movie selection from 1984.
In this city, under cover of darkness, someone is stalking Sarah Connor.
Sarah Connor?
Yes.
Sarah Connor, 35, brutally shot to death in her home.
You're dead, honey.
Other late-breaking news.
What's this? Dead girl, too. Sarah Louise Connor. Is this right?
Of course, we'll have more on this late-breaking story as it comes in.
She doesn't know why, but it's her he's after.
Did you reach the next girl yet? No, I didn't get an answer machine.
Check up that you're there. I'm really scared. I think that there's somebody after me.
And no one can help her, except for one man.
I'm Reese. It's a sign to protect you. You've been targeted for termination.
This isn't true. How could that man just get up after you did?
It's not a man. Machine. Terminator. Underneath it's a hyperalloy combat chassis. Microprocessor controlled. Fully armored. Very tough. But outside it's living human tissue.
They cannot make things like that yet.
Not yet. Not for about 40 years.
Are you saying it's from the future?
They came to fight for the one woman who could save their future.
And this computer thinks it can win by killing the mother of its enemy.
One came to protect her.
I came across time for you, Sarah.
The other to kill her. Arnold Schwarzenegger is the Terminator. Inhuman. Relentless. Unstoppable. He has only one purpose: murder.
Can you stop it?
I don't know.
And now Sarah Connor's world has become a battlefield, with her at ground zero and the Terminator closing in. An adventure unlike anything you've ever seen before. Arnold Schwarzenegger is the Terminator.
This is like the longest trailer in the whole world. But I love like that kind of trailer narration. Like, I miss that. I want someone to tell me what is happening in the trailer in the movie that we're watching. And 2 times we got Arnold Schwarzenegger is.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
Yeah, he had just done the Conan movies.
Conan. It's Conan.
No. It's Conan.
It's Conan?
It's Conan.
I think I'm saying the same thing you're saying.
I hear the same word myself. Yes,
Thank you.
I very much miss narration of trailers where they lay out the entire plot as part of the trailer, so that way I really get a good feel for what I'm going for. Because visually I may not follow and understand what you're telling me, but if you just lay it out for me beat by beat, that's money right there. Now I know I'm in.
Yeah,
You'll feel many emotions in The Terminator.
Tell me what those emotions are. I need to know if I'm doing it right. Hi, I'm Krissy. I'm the comedian for this podcast and director at the Neighborhood Comedy Theater in downtown Mesa, Arizona. And with me, as ever, is filmmaker Nathan Blackwell.
Well, hello there.
And joining us today is a podcaster extraordinaire who maybe hopefully have heard me podcasting with a lot lately over at the Next Reel Film podcast on SatMat and on the we talked about Doctor Strange. We talked about Morbius. That was an exciting one.
That was exciting. Yeah.
Very excited to have Ocean Murff with us here today.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very excited to be a part of the most excellent 80s podcast.
Yes. Welcome. This is going to be a doozy. All right. The Terminator, 1984. I know I saw this movie as a kid. I can't remember a time before I've seen The Terminator, but I don't remember seeing The Terminator. It's like it was always a part of me. I don't know. I don't remember seeing it for the first time, but I've seen it 1 million times.
So this could be the first movie you've ever seen.
Maybe I went back in time to show it to myself so that I would never not know.
Yes.
To fear robots. What about for you, Ocean?
For me, it was when it came out, I was too young to watch rated R movies, so I did not see it in theaters or anything then. And also, it was I was young enough that it was still very scary, so I didn't want to see it then. When Terminator 2 came out, I was in college, and so I similarly to you, I don't remember exactly when the first time was I saw it. I know that I saw it before Terminator 2, so I either saw it near the end of my high school or beginning of college. And it has it is one of those movies where I loved it at the time, and it has affected me in my whole life in ways you don't really realize until I watched it again. In multiple ways, which we can discuss later. But that's when I first saw it. I immediately loved it. Always have loved it. I have seen it more times than I can count, probably easily a dozen or so. And I really. I've always loved this movie, and so I'm really excited to actually watch it again.
Awesome.
And for you, Nathan, I'm guessing
I was also too young to see this, which is why I had to see this when I was young. So
yeah.
This was like when I think of the one movie that as soon as like our mom like left for whatever reason, that we had to sneak to the Superstar video, and this was our one rated R pick, our covert. She would never allow anything like this. We could only play with Transformers, not GI Joes, because Transformers were GI Joe is too military. And so we snuck and saw this movie while she was out, and it was like the pinnacle in terms of then of like the rated R movies. This was like the violence, the scariness, the forbidden fruit, the action. It was a big deal. It was a big deal.
Yeah, there's a whole sex scene that I completely erased from my own memory. So I'm like sitting there watching this with my 11-year-old and going, "Oh, that's a lot of boobs." Ah! Oops. And a lot of things that you gloss over it. Once there are 40 explosions, you become numb to like explosions and shooting. But the like goriness of him cutting into his
the body horror.
Ooh.
That was like the introduction to body horror.
I did not like it then, and I don't like it now.
I also was very. That was like the one scene that I think I saw in a vacuum was when he cut his own eye out, then cut into his arm and everything, and it was gory at the time. Mm-hmm. I find it bothers me so much less now because it's really the only aspect of the movie that I feel that doesn't hold up over time, which is how it looks. His face looks so fake that it doesn't seem gory to me. It's obviously a prosthetic. It's obviously rubber. And so now it's just like, oh, okay, well, if I get into it enough and think, oh, that's my eye, then it's kind of creepy. But other than that, it's like, oh, look, they're cutting into a doll, into a mannequin. You can really tell that part. And so, so it bothers me less now that I am older, but I also, I like you, Krissy. I I remembered that there was the sex scene. I just didn't remember it was this much of a sex scene, and it's very different from how this movie would be made now, that, even though you would still have the scene, it wouldn't look like this.
No. Yeah. And so when I was a kid, my dad had a video production company, and he used to take VHS copies of movies, take the sex out. So like the sex scene in this and the sex scene in Top Gun, like I think I've only seen them maybe like 3 times in my adult life, and I didn't know that. I thought it just went right to volleyball. And like he used to also take out the scariest bits and make like little horror reels, and the eye cutting part of this was in that like little horror reel that he used to make to like scare us, and that and the part from Poltergeist where he like picks at his skin, and I was just like, no, I don't ever want to see someone like looking at their face in a mirror in a bathroom and like doing something terrible to it. Ugh, it really gets me. So this movie, it tells us of a terrible future that starts in 2021 and the peak of it is in 2029. Am I getting those dates right?
I remember the 2029.
Yeah, I thought in this movie Judgment Day happens in 97.
In 97. Okay.
In 1997. Yeah, right. Yeah, Judgment Day is 97 in this version, and because it's 1984, so 1997 is a good 13 years away, so it's nice and futuristic, and so but that's and then and Reese is sent back in 2029, I believe.
From 2029.
Right, from 2029, sent back then to 1984.
Yes.
Okay. Which, as we find out that it was kind of a Hail Mary from the robots to kind of like, apparently the humans were on the verge of success. They basically pulled off their victory, and then the robots.
It was their Hail Mary to try to then win the war retroactively, because at least what Kyle Reese, when he's talking about, he's saying that they'd already won, so killing John Connor then wouldn't matter, and so they need to go back and kill him before he was born, and so that's the premise of this one, which was a great premise that is just destroyed in sequels, but in this one it works really well.
This is one of those series where it's like Jaws, to where with Jaws, like the first one is a masterpiece, and then all the other ones you should pretend like they don't exist. Like with the Terminator movies, it's just really the James Cameron ones need to exist, and then you can pretend like everything else doesn't.
But Terminator 2 is great.
Yes.
That's also James.
I just want to make sure we're all on the same page with that.
Okay. Arguably better than the first one.
Agree. Yes. Well, although but it's so weird because I know it so well. Like it's
that's
hard
why I said
to
arguably.
Say.
Arguably, yeah. It's. I think you could definitely say it's a better movie on its own as far as entertainment and what it's providing and everything. I think that there are aspects of the first one that make it where things make more sense. Terminator 2 starts introducing elements that would then make you question, well, why didn't they do that before? If you're thinking about it logically, but it is a bigger, more entertaining, more colorful, more the effects and everything are more realistic. And Terminator 2 is a great story, and I love Terminator 2. I'm not throwing any shade to that at all. But it does, Terminator 1 kind of has this, for me, special place of where it's one, to me, a special rare movie that still works because it's it's just a chase movie at the end of the day, and that even when I was watching it again recently, it's still you still kind of get on the edge of your seat. You're still like, are they gonna I'm like, I know they're gonna make it.
I know they're gonna make it.
It's still, are they gonna make it? It's gonna get them. So
it still seems impossible though. That hand is tickling her little throat.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's a lean, fast, simple movie, and I think that's one of the lessons of that. There's nowadays there's some a lot of blockbusters that are just a very complex mess. It's not as ultimately it's a great thing to create a very simple story that you tell in a complex way rather than a complex story that is just all over the place that ultimately becomes a little muddy.
We start by seeing, we get the blah, 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 this is happening, yada, yada, 2029, the machines, wasteland, skulls. It's not nice. And then we get the sphere of energy with a very nude Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he encounters the three punks. Like, this part of the movie I remember like really clearly, except I this is the first time I was like, oh, that's his penis right there. I just saw it. I can't unsee it. Like, young me's mind was just like, whoop.
Does not exist.
Yeah. So with these three punks, it's Bill Paxton and two other guys. And Bill Paxton has tread marks on his face as if he's been run over by a car. But he had to have
face tat.
Yeah, or it's a tattoo or it's something. Yeah. But it's like, he's like, that's his persona. He's like, hey, I'm the guy who's been run over by something. I'm a badass.
I view him as a visionary of the future popularity of face tattoos.
Yeah,
and he's the progenitor of all those things.
He also knows everything to Bill Paxton in the 1984 Terminator.
Yep. And I was going to say also the thing with Bill Paxton, which here's your useless bit of trivia is that he's the only character that has speaking roles in a Terminator, an Alien, and a Predator movie.
Nice. Hey, way to go, Bill. Yeah. And then so we jump right into like how messed up this movie is going to get when he punches his fist through a human body, which is like ploop, like it's ploop. And he takes his clothes.
He has to establish that he's the bad guy, right? Because I think the initial conceit when they both arrive, you're supposed to not be sure which one's the good guy, which one's the bad guy, but they want to make sure that right off that Arnold is the bad guy.
He's the bad guy.
Yeah, he's the bad guy. Yeah.
They do play the ambiguity of Reese when he shows up. Is he meant to kill them? He seems a little nicer, but he's still definitely kind of like a feral animal who wears hobo pants without underwear for the entire movie. So you're still kind of questioning what's about him until ultimately, I mean, you have a feeling, and honestly, like anyone who's watched the trailer was told that Arnold Schwarzenegger was in it multiple times,
and that Kyle Reese is the one man who can save her. And when we see him in his glowing time bubble, like he's scarred really badly, like he's just covered in gross scars. And I think Arnold was like perfect. Yes. In every way.
Also had a better time bubble. Arnold is stationary on the ground, nice and easy, gets to look up and look around, and he kind of stands up, and he has the Terminator, that little dun 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 going in the background, all the beautiful that, and Kyle Reese is just dropped from the sky. Right, his bubble's like it's like oh, we were 10 feet too high above ground. You're gonna hit.
That's like the machines have already perfectly figured it out, and then the humans are like slapping the keyboards.
Yeah,
get in.
And he's running around. He's being chased by the cops. He's like, "What year is it?" It's chaos. Except for he gets those beautiful Nikes that get many beauty shots throughout this film. Is like Nikes, high top Nikes. Wouldn't it be great if you had high top Nikes? He's got high top Nikes.
Right.
And then we meet Sarah Connor. She's got the best scooter. I want that scooter so bad. Like that cute little like Vespa like thing that she's got. She's like cute and funny, and like we immediately like her. She's not a good waitress at not a good Bob's Big Boy. And then we cut back to the Terminator. He's like gun shopping, just one word like that and this. I will take this.
Yeah, so it's their little small commentary on American gun laws and the ability to acquire them so quickly and easily.
Yeah, and then, you got to fill out a form.
Exactly, and then having the bullets right by the counter.
No,
Well, yeah, he wouldn't pass the background check.
No.
So he only had one option.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep. And then killing the store owner just, because. But although it was efficient,
I'm embarrassed.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's a shoot first kind of guy. And then so back at the restaurant, Sarah Connor's friend is like, "Oh my God, this is so hilarious. You're going to love this. Come take a look. Someone with your exact name has been brutally murdered." Isn't that fun? Isn't that hilarious?
Yeah, exactly. You're dead, honey.
You're dead, honey.
Yeah. I can totally see that.
As being like, people being like, what's hilarious? Someone named Nathan Blackwell has been getting killed left and right and sideways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they wouldn't be able to piece it together now because the only way they got figured out the pattern was to look at the phone book. And so right now we'd have no idea what order you are in the phone book, so you wouldn't know if you're next. At least Sarah Connor got to find out. And
also they have time travel, but they both needed to find a yellow pages when they got to 1984. Like, yes. You're from 2029.
It's pre-internet. It's pre-internet.
But the availability of public information at an actual page is really the villain of this movie.
Well, they did said they had like very loose information in terms of like, what her name was and where she lived, because apparently they bombed like the whole planet. And didn't think, maybe we should have a backup of our digital information. There wasn't much at that point.
Yeah. I think. So we get to meet, we get a little bit more of her, home life. She's blow drying her hair with her insane...
Great hair, by the way.
Great hair. So feathered.
Feathered, yeah. That look needs to come back.
Yeah, high and dry. That's the 80s look. There's no moisture in that hair anymore.
Yeah.
And her roommate is so funny. Ginger is the roommate's name, and she's just putting on lipstick in the most insane way. She's got headphones on, and that's all that she cares about is her headphones. They're getting ready to go out. Sarah's got a pet iguana, and she gets dumped. So she decides to go to a movie instead. And it really occurred to me, we should all be dressing each day. That's the outfit you're going to be on the lam in.
There's a lot of different criteria I use for going out. It's A, am I going to be going on the lam in an adventure? Or B, am I going to get killed today? And this is my ghost outfit for all of
forever.
Life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
choose wisely.
Yeah. And so this is what I ended up with, is just kind of a Mos Eisley, hard rock t-shirt.
Standard t-shirt, jeans.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong.
Yeah.
But she's looking very cute, very high-waisted in her jeans. And so then we meet the two cops who are putting it together, and they're like, oh, maybe we should call the other Sarah Connor.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much smoking. They're smoking more than one cigarette at a time.
Yes. Yeah. There's one where Paul Warfield has a cigarette in his hand, and he's like, "Give me a cigarette," and then he doesn't realize he has another one until then. And I was like, "Oh, the '80s." When that was and when this came out, that would be, and that is also definitely a different thing with our eyes now, that we notice all of that. Whereas at the time back then, that's no big deal. You could, you could still smoke on airplanes, back then, right? So it was to smoke in a police station. You're like, wow, look at all that ventilation they've got going on there. It's fine, So you wouldn't have given that a second thought. And so I it's one of the things that I do find that where you can almost time stamp movies of when they were made based on is it a whole bunch of smoking? It's the somewhere between the 60s and 80s is when this came out. Yeah,
how much smoking?
Exactly.
It's also fascinating with lower, I find that lower budget movies are more reflective of the time they were made in. The first Terminator was pretty darn low budget, but they have less control over the production design. They're not creating sets. They're using existing locations. They might have a lot of background actors bringing in their own clothes. And so you've got a lot more of the feel of 1984, or they probably shot this in 83 if it came out in 84, of what these locations and people actually look like, more than bigger budget stuff which they kind of are able to kind of like pick and choose and design everything.
And didn't they shoot a lot of this illegally and secretly? And so
I wouldn't say a lot of it, but they definitely probably did some. Like, you can't do big car chase sequences illegally,
right?
Because that will get you into trouble. But I'm sure that they 100% got some stuff of like the Terminator walking up to a street, punching in through a window, or like Sarah Connor coming up in her scooter, that kind of stuff.
Honestly, I hope that everybody at the Tech Noir dance club is a real person who is really having a great time, because I had a great time looking at their outfits and watching them dance, and I adored every single one of them. So Sarah Connor is like trying to play phone tag with payphones and quarters, and she's calling the like emergency police line, and finally they get a hold of her and they're like, "You're in public. You'll be safe." And both my kids went, oh, safe because she's in public. Right.
The
80s. And then kablooey. Here comes the Terminator. And this is like, we're like, oh, she's running away from Kyle Reese. There's also like Arnold Schwarzenegger is there. Things are blowing up. It's chaos, and then we get, I think, one of the best lines in movie history. Come with me if you want to live, right? And he's like not being that nice about it. He's like, come with me if you want to live, I guess.
Yes, and it is a line that is repeated multiple times in various other Terminator movies and copied in other movies. It's a great line, but I think that it also it starts to set the initial stakes of where, at least as far as the movie goes, you understand that Arnold Schwarzenegger is the Terminator from the trailers, and you understand, this as an intellectual, audience member. But this is the first time where you see, oh, he can take several shotgun blasts to the chest and still get up, right? And honestly, what the way it happens in this movie more than others, the slow, deliberate pace at which he gets up is also equally as menacing. And where he, gets shot a few times, falls down, gets back up, then, comes and tries to kill her again, then gets shot again, goes out the window, falls out and everything, then gets back up. Then for really, which they also show, then it finally gets through with Kyle and Sarah. They finally get the idea of, oh, maybe, at least Sarah does. Hey, maybe I should run because he's still getting up. And then they run. And then also they do demonstrate the first, what I feel was the machine's design flaw, which was making the Terminator not that fast of a runner, because of the big bulkiness that they could outrun him and get away from him. And then they start the first car chase sequence, which is, where it's an interesting car chase in that you feel like a car chase is happening when one is not. Because really, once they get into the car, the Terminator punches through the window, starts grabbing Sarah Connor and pulling her out through the window, where you're like, oh, well, she's dead here. Kyle Reese still, gets him off the hood and then takes off driving. And she is driving easily 85, 90 miles an hour downtown LA, which is an impressive feat, but you can use sidewalks, so that helps out some. But the fact is, at this moment, they're not actually being chased. Right, because he's on the ground. He has to go then get the cop, and he goes getting the radio and all that, and he's surveilling. But they're not actually being chased, and he's still driving as if they are, attracting what I assume to be the largest amount of police attention you would get from that. Because there's a lot of cops following them all the time, and I was sitting there watching it thinking, well, did the cops not have much to do? Because at this point, he's basically just he's been speeding. And so that's really what he's been doing at this point. But they attract a lot of cop attention. They find the parking garage they're in. But I liked part of what I liked about this scene, looking back on it, was that idea of where it's like a car chase without being chased. And that they've already gotten me into I'm being chased mode even before I'm being chased.
You're just constantly being chased. You're never not being chased. It's always right there. And I totally agree, Ocean. Like, that part is the scary part, where you're like, it's done. We did it. We won. It's dead. Watching. Oh, shit, it got up. Run.
Yeah. And then, like, in addition to, like, seeing him unstoppable in person. Just that speech was so effective, where Reese is just kind of laying out like how it works. Like, you can't bargain with it, you can't reason with it. It never feels pity or remorse. It will not stop until you are dead. You know,
and then it takes a vacation, but not until you're dead. You're dead, and then it will go bowling. Yeah, it's very scary, and I think that Michael Biehn as Kyle Reese is a really likable but gruff kind of guy, and he's the one who's always explaining things, and he does say, right, like, the future isn't permanent. This is one possible future. And so I always
he
get
thinks
really bogged down and like, okay, but it's the whole chicken and the egg thing, right? Of like, well, in order for John Connor to exist, then this has to have happened. And if this happened, then didn't that happen? And if you can send organic matter through time, why can't you send everything else? If you could send bones and eyelashes and nose hairs, why can't you send a t-shirt? I don't understand.
They kind of like quote solve it by having someone who doesn't understand how it works kind of like try to explain it. It's like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a pencil neck. It's something about fields. It's something about fields. Energy fields.
All I know is I'm here to help you. No one else goes through. No one goes back. I'm here to save you. He's here to kill you. Ask me no more questions. I'll tell you no more lies. So he does get arrested, and we get that nice moment where she's like, they will kill you. We gotta take this one for the team. And the cops are like, look, he was probably on PCP, and he had one of these jackets, and everything's okay, and he's just a cuckoo banana pants.
Yeah, which is all logical from their perspective.
Yeah.
You know, you can't expect that that 1984 cops, or really even 2022 cops, would jump immediately to, oh, no, I know what this is. He is a robot from the future.
Right.
And
it's a Terminator or a Predator.
Right, exactly, yeah. He's your savior. So we're going to let you go with him because he's going to help you run from this other Terminator thing, because, you know, we recognize that if you're here, the Terminating machine will come here and kill all of us. So that, you know, for them to jump to all those conclusions would have been ridiculous. And so I honestly feel that, hey, these cops are making logical sense, that they're not bumbling, stupid police detective, which is a trope you see in a lot of these movies. It's like, no, every step they make, even though it ultimately ends up to be futile, it's logical.
They're trying.
And I feel like that's a James Cameron thing. Like, you see that in a lot of his movies, to where there is cause and effect, and there is, like, you know, like a logic and a research, and you do see things that would happen in real life that he uses for dramatic purpose, you know?
Because as soon as Arnold Schwarzenegger gets there, they're all like, oh shit, run! I don't know, run!
Well, to be fair, I think with that, though, and the part of what I like about that sequence and that scene, you know, obviously now that has the catchphrases of all catchphrases. When he's, you know, he says, I'll be back, you know, and the one thing that I'd forgotten about was the slow burn after that, because in my head, I'll be back started with, I walk out the door, 2 seconds later, I'm coming through with the car. I forgot about easily 30 seconds of we're watching the guy write down on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
You know, like the Death Star is there. It's like they're, you know, you're having this length of time, and because you're watching something so unentertaining, it seems like this long wait of time for him to come back, and you're like, you know, almost building up tension in yourself because you know he's going to come back, but it feels now like he's been gone a really long time. Or, you know, are we safe now? And it's like, no. Even when he gets in and starts, you know, killing all the cops and everything. I mean, there's the ones that are at their desk. I mean, let's face it. If I'm sitting at my desk having coffee, I don't expect to get shot with a shotgun, right? So that's gonna put a damper on your day. But the other ones, I think that they, you know, even the cops that responded in a regular form, in a nice tactical form. They, you know, got up, you know, shot headshots, body shots, you know, and everything, and just didn't realize, oh, I'm dealing with someone who isn't going to go down. Right. And so I can shoot you 3 or 4 times center mass, and you're just going to, like, you know, kind of recoil back a half second and then shoot me dead. And so, you know, the constant escalation of that is something that, you know, they could not have possibly been prepared for.
Yeah. At this point, the Terminator movie hadn't even come out yet.
They do. So how would they know?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
I love when we get to see the Terminator's perspective. Like, that's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, I remember that as that being very, very novel at the time.
And so cool. Like, I reference that when I teach improv, is to be like, you have to think of yourself as having that Terminator's perspective where you're seeing like all your possible responses and all the possible ideas, and you have to just like have them here, and
you all need to
focused.
pick your own fuck you asshole.
Yes, exactly. Scroll through that list. It's your first idea is not always the best idea. Sometimes that second, third idea.
Yeah.
So they do get away, and we get a lot more storytelling from Kyle Reese. We get a lot of bonding with the two of them. They, they're having like sexy bomb making time, and they're like, "Oh, here's how I make bombs as a kid," and they're getting to know each other.
And then eventually shows him that photo of that he tells her that he had a photo of her.
Yeah.
That he 100% jerked off to. I've
so much. And he says, like, in a really surprising way, he says, like, I came here for you. I love you. I've always loved you. That's why I volunteered. Oops, I've said too much. Forget it.
I gotta wash my face.
You got something in your eye.
Yes, and remember those bombs we need to be careful about? In order to demonstrate my frustration, I must slam them into this bag very vehemently. Yes, yeah. So, yeah.
And at this point, we know the Terminator's on the way to get them because she called her mom, like a good girl's gonna do, and was like, "Here's where Well, she doesn't know. She's like, no, she's new to being on the run."
Right.
Have you talked to your kids yet about that? Like, if they're being pursued by a Terminator, not to call you? Like, I don't care how worried you think you are about me.
Yeah,
you need to have the talk.
My parenting talks are very much like, if a Terminator is coming for you, here's what to do. Like, if time travel happens,
don't get me involved.
So do not.
Well, to be fair, you're dead. So really, you're protecting your children by telling them don't call me, because the Terminator is going to come to me, kill me, and impersonate me in order to find you, as is done in multiple Terminator movies. So just let it.
Don't be
go.
Selfish. Yeah.
Exactly. Don't be selfish. Yes, unless unless you're going to come rescue me with a Terminator of your own, that's okay. But anything else, anything short of that, if it's a human that's protecting you, just run.
Just run.
Tell me all about your Terminator experience after it's been destroyed.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
I don't give me the address of where you are. I don't need it. What am I going to do? Send you a letter?
Yeah.
I don't need
the
it.
Special police that only parents know about.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh God. But so then we get this like so much sex, like so much more sex than I thought was gonna happen.
Well, to be fair, it had been cut out of your version. I felt
true,
like
the
scene was like 45 seconds, and then half of it was just hands grabbing onto sheets.
Yeah. Well, but I'm sitting there with my kids, 16 and 11, and they're like, "He's honking her boob," and I'm like, "Stop looking at the boobs!" Like,
nice. Well, but also the thing about this movie, which. And so here's my thought about the sex scene. So I had two thoughts at the same time. Well, let's just say I had two thoughts at the same time. My two thoughts were that one, yes, which we've described, a lot of sex, and that if this movie was made now, I think that the sex scene would just be implied. They start kissing, and then we just go.
We have so unsexed our movies,
right. And I started thinking about that why, and I was like, because I really think it's just much more of like, well. With the massive availability and access to porn now, it becomes like, if I want that, I can get it from there. I don't need that in my regular movies anymore, especially, that long. But
and that also everything is like available everywhere.
It absolutely is. Yeah.
So if you want your Terminator to be on TV or on streaming, it's got to have less boobs.
Yes. Boobs. And but the other thing which I kind of forget, I guess I don't forgive is the right term, but if you think about the premise of this movie, basically that scene is the point.
Yeah.
Right. That everything is about getting Kyle Reese back into this time frame, in this time zone, and for them to have sex to conceive John Connor. That's the whole movie is for that.
But that's all they get too. Like that's all they're gonna get.
Yes.
together.
Yeah, right. And that's it. And so then I understand then why, especially, like when you think about it from as the filmmakers at the time, where it's like, okay, we need to bring this point out and kind of draw it out because it's the reason we're all here.
Yeah.
Is for this.
So. And then, of course, John Connor couldn't tell Reese that, or it wouldn't happen. Yeah. He can kind of lay the groundwork and give him the photo. It's like, don't you think my mom's cute? Yeah, right. Like he can't take him. It's like we won. Oh no, they've sent something back. And then John Connor like grabs Reese. It's like, I need you to fuck my mom. I need you to fuck my mom. It's like, no, what? What are you doing? Why are we having this conversation? This is
no. But also
he would be like, I'm fine with that. I've been spanking it to her for a while now.
Yeah, she seems hot.
You saying real deal? I'm in.
But also, like, I do think that this is one of those movies that really like highlights how odd it is. I think that like we can watch like hundreds of people get shot, and we're like, and then like one boob gets honked, and we're like, scandal. Don't look, like look away from the boobs. Look back at the people getting dismembered and the guy cutting his arm apart. Ugh.
Both those people were very happy in that scene.
Yeah, they were, and it was nice. So anyway, then afterwards they're like all playful with the bombs. She's like, think fast, and they're like happy together. Does not last. Here comes the Terminator, and then it's like
they get into a bomb throwing fight.
Yeah. Then it's chasey, runny. Bada boom, bada bing. Everything's exploding. We're getting in trucks. It's on fire. Is it dead? Of course it's not dead now. It's just naked. And scarier than
it's just all machine? Yes.
Yeah. And, Kyle's been hit. He's hurt. They're running. They go to a factory. Things are exploding everywhere. They turn everything on to confuse it because it's like a T-Rex, right?
The tracking. Yeah, exactly. It would be able to sense. Well, it would be able to sense the movement if nothing was moving in a room but them. Then it would be able to sense them faster. Whereas now it's has to identify the other movement. So again, it seems odd at the time when they're doing it and you're watching it, but I think it works.
Yeah.
That it's like, that would confuse something that at least you'd have multiple things moving around.
Yeah, take the time and turn on the machines.
Exactly.
And then I really like when she's like, because he's obviously very hurt. But I think he also, I don't know, because he's just like, leave me and run. And she's like, no, get on your feet, soldier. We got a job to do. And she's trying to get him through it. And he puts his last little bomb inside the Terminator's tum-tum.
Yes.
And he doesn't make it. The Terminator does.
Well, the top half of the Terminator does. Introducing the scariest crawl chase ever. Yeah. And every time you're sitting there going like, all he has to, if he just gets a hold of that ankle, she's not going to be able to break free from it.
No.
And she's not going to be strong enough to drag him. And so if he gets hold of the ankle, that means he's going to climb up, and it'd be like getting killed by a python because he'd have to climb up to get to her neck and then strangle her. And so it's all around terrifying, scary way to die.
Yeah. And even when she crawls through the squishy machine, closes the gate, and while she's trying to get the button that's slightly behind her, it's still just trying to just get at her neck. It's gonna get her. Oh my god! And then she finally mooshes it, and the light goes out, and it's like, okay, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's one catchphrase that didn't make it to the other movies, which is "You're terminated, fucker." Hey, they can't all be winners.
Yeah. Well, and also she should be thanking Kyle Reese for turning everything on, because otherwise that wouldn't have been. If that wasn't on, then she wouldn't. She definitely wouldn't have made it.
Yeah. And so then it's just she's goes to the hospital. He's dead. She's in a Jeep. She's in Mexico. She's got a dog because dogs know Terminators.
Correct.
She got her gun, and this is the moment where she's talking into her tape recorder to be like, well, how much should I tell you about boning down with your dad? He was your friend. He will be your friend. He's not your friend yet, but he will be.
I'll tell you.
Yeah. He was cool. He was a little mean at first, but we got through it.
He wore hobo pants and no underwear the whole time.
Well, as a point of order, he stole the pants off screen. We don't know that he didn't also steal that hobo's underwear. He very well could have.
Underpants?
That's true.
Exactly.
Unhoused man. May I have your undies? And then she takes the picture, and that's where we get the picture. And
and the kid tries to charge her like what is in today's money like $15 for a Polaroid.
But it's like, look, he's gonna explode in a few years. Give him the $5. Don't
exactly.
Negotiate him down by $1. These times are hard. Exactly. Give that kid all $5.
And this picture is how your future baby daddy falls in love with you. I mean, I think it's worth the extra $1. I agree with you. She did not need to negotiate down.
Yeah. And that's the Terminator, baby. Like, what a great movie. I mean, I think we are all in agreement that it holds up.
Yes, it does, and it's one of the. Not only does it hold up, it's one of the things which I was alluding to earlier, that how one of the ways that it affects me is the drum beat. So, like whenever in the movie Arnold Schwarzenegger is standing in a room, just looking side to side, that dun 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 dun, that drum beat. Anytime I'm standing in a room looking for something and I just stand still and I start looking back and forth, that drum beat goes into my head. To this day. Yeah,
that's great.
Do you see yourself scanning from the Terminator
point of view? Yes, I do. Yeah, things turn red, and I'm looking, scanning. I see a bunch of numbers that mean nothing. Scanning, going back and forth because just because it looks cool.
Oh yeah. Like, I remember like pausing it and watching the scan of what is all the information he's looking at, and hitting pause, stop, pause, stop. Because back then you didn't have like the internet just to tell you everything already. Someone on YouTube already having dissected, like you wanted to know what were all the little details that they put in there, frame by frame.
I love that you did that. That's a very Nathan Blackwell thing to do. I like it. So, like, on a scale of 1 picture of your best friend's mom to 10 pictures of your best friend's mom,
10 being the
10
best.
being the best.
Like, that's Christmas time.
Are they friends?
I thought they were. Were they not?
I've never gotten the impression they were friends. I was always in the impression that John Connor was, because effectively the way he describes the dynamic, it would be like you're in the army and Kyle Reese is like a corporal, or he's a fighter, and then this great general came along and taught them and led them through things, and they've obviously interacted a couple times, but I was never under the impression they were friends.
He probably had to keep like a degree of distance between them, you know, of like both being familiar and like friendly, but yet still a bit of a distance away. Yeah, that's interesting.
I think they probably like cover that in some of the later movies, which is why it's like, oh, should they remake this? Should they redo this? They've done everything they can do to this. This movie is this little one is perfect the way it is. So on a scale of 1 to 10, Nathan, like, set the tone.
I agree with all you guys. My gut says 8.5 in terms of it holding up. I would say, there's some parts where the visual effects or like the rubber Arnie head don't work as well today as they did back then. But I think all in all, like, it's super strong, like it's lean and mean and it's solid. So
great. What do you think, Ocean?
Well, here's where I'm not exactly sure. So the movie itself to me is clearly a 10, but if we're saying how well it holds up, it becomes a thing of, well, all right, how much weight do I take off a point, which I could, how much weight for how it looks? Because the rubber head and then the CGI doesn't look good at all. However, they did a lot of this stuff with practical effects. And so even the sequence at the end, it looks like they're doing it with a practical effect. Like when he's walking to the door, when he's, just a machine walking to the door, that's obviously CGI because that looks fake. But when he's crawling after her, I think that they did that practically. And so the practical effects, Yeah, with a puppet or something, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Those hold up pretty well, and so it honestly is. When I think through the movie, the only real quibble I have with the movie is that it looks dated, which is something. Do I now blame the movie for that? Because it's like, look, movie, it is your fault you could not do graphics like you can 30 years later.
Yeah, CGI hadn't even existed yet at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
they were using stop animation or like go motion for like the full body stuff, and then for like the chest up, the stuff that looked the best, they were using a real life-size model, from the chest up that people were operating underneath, like ET,
like a puppet.
Yeah.
Why you gotta bring ET into this? We were having a nice time.
Long story.
So I think that becomes my quibble. So I think then, just to be fair and to not belabor the point, I'll just do 9.5. Just knock off a little bit for the fact that it looks old CGI. But other than that, the movie holds up on so many levels, not the least of which we did not describe, is that from a time traveling movie standpoint, I think that it does something that's interesting in that, yes, Kyle Reese says I'm from the future, maybe one possible future and all that. But I think that it leaves little breadcrumbs that is like, no, this was the only path that ever existed. Mm-hmm. It's an infinite time loop that only worked this way, because, part of it too, which to me was that, well, when he's like, he gave me a picture of you and I didn't know why. Right. So that tells you this has already happened. Right, because there is no other like why would I be like, all right, dude, that you're just one of my soldiers that I'm in command of? Hey, here's a picture of my mom. Check it out.
My mom.
Here's my mom.
It makes me think of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, where they're like, remember the keys, remember a trash can. It's like, remember to give Kyle Reese a picture of my mom. Okay,
yeah, exactly.
I think that's a great analysis, Ocean, and I agree. Like, I really want to give this movie a 10 for the same reason I want to give Die Hard a 10. But I love giving 10s. Like, I always want to give everything a perfect score. So yeah, I think both of you are pretty on the money. Like, I'll split the difference and say I'll give it a 9. And just for all of the reasons that you mentioned, the creepiness of the body horror and stuff. But I think that this movie, like, I can't imagine a world where we didn't know what a Terminator was. So, oh boy, what a great movie. So, a deep cut recommendation. I had a hard time. Nathan, did you have an easy time? Do you have
it's tough. It's tough. If I was going to recommend like a movie to see for people who wanted to see more Terminating, like I'm
more
at a bit of a
okay.
Yeah, I'm at a bit of a loss.
So Terminator 2?
Right, exactly. I mean, that's the obvious, but so what I went with was more latching on to like the post-apocalyptic future humans, existing. Mm-hmm. So there's an amusing show on Hulu called Future Man, which is really more kind of like Terminator meets The Last Starfighter, but with kind of like the Seth Rogen style humor. So it basically you've got these people from the future who live in a more ridiculous version of what the people in the Terminator live in the future in terms of how they exist. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I latched onto as kind of an amusement comedy alternative of that kind of future lifestyle of how they've learned to cope and to progress after the civilization has been destroyed.
Love it.
Nice.
And did you come up with one, Ocean?
I also had a hard time with this, so I decided to just come up with 2, so that way I could cover some of my bases. I latched on to the really 2 aspects of it. One, which is not a deep cut, so it'll be things where I'm recommending seeing this, but you may have already seen it. So the I guess the surface wound recommendation is that I was thinking about so I'm thinking about a character that is in a movie. It's a chase movie. They're being hunted for something they will do in the future, but they haven't done yet. And, kind of like Sarah Connor's perspective. And so then I thought, oh, well, that's Minority Report.
Oh yeah.
In that. So if you like that kind of that twist of that, kind of that formula there, then you can check that one out. And then also what is somewhat a lesser known movie that really just combines time traveling. Although this one actually contains loops along with a lot of chase scenes and running is Run Lola Run. Which is it's a little independent a German movie where where that movie has a lot of there are really three main time loop sequences, and that the conceit of the whole time is that Lola has a boyfriend who's in trouble, who's going to be killed in 20 minutes if she doesn't get to a certain location, and so she has to physically run to get there, and that there's three distinct time loops of the same situations, and then also from a storytelling plot device, which I thought was genius about this movie, is when she's doing the running, she comes across certain characters, and they use multiple pictures. Have you guys seen Run Lola Run, by the way?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, yeah. So you know what I'm talking about. They use multiple pictures to then give full stories of people in about 15 seconds. And in each iteration of when you run past them, the story is slightly different based on what's going on. But it has a lot of it has the time loop, it has the chasing, a lot of the running, and it's a very fast paced movie.
Nice, very good.
That was a good pick. I thought that you were gonna. I thought twice that you were gonna steal mine, Ocean. I thought of two. One, the confusingness of the time travel and the loops and the this and the that and the beeps and the bops. Looper, right? With Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis, where it's like you're an assassin, but like you close your own loop, and that's how we solve this problem. But then, of course, things go awry. I don't know. I also could have said, although I think I've recommended it many times before, is it eventually became called Live, Die, Repeat. But
Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow. Yes. I love Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, great movie.
But the thing that I kept coming to me in my mind when I was watching this was just the inevitability of the Terminator, and the fact that like you can never really rest because he's coming and he feels no pain and he does know this and he does know that. It made me think of the horror movie It Follows.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where it's just like it's coming for you. It will get you. You can try to outrun it. You can try to outfox it or whatever, but it will like walk across the bottom of the sea if it has to get to you. And I was just like picturing, the Terminator just like walking across the bottom of a lake or something, because it was the fastest way to like get to Sarah Connor. So I don't think any of those are particularly good or insightful, but that's
I love Edge of Tomorrow, and Looper was a very good and confusing movie.
Yeah, I remember enjoying it.
Yeah,
but that's all. Right.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it, and then I think I was at the end of the first time I saw it, I was like, "Oh, this was really good." I don't know what I watched, but it was good. Yeah,
I think I like that. Well, on to never think of it again. Awesome. Well, thanks for being our guest, Ocean. Is there anything that you would like to recommend? Like, where can people find you and follow you and watch and listen to all of your goodness?
Oh, well, what I'm doing is I'm part of the True Story FM family of podcasts. Immediately up next for me is a Saturday Matinee. Saturday Matinee is a weekly podcast where I and other groups of hosts who we interchange who the lineup is. We discuss movies and movie and TV news. We play games, and then we have a list challenge where we have to come up with a list of movies based on some theme that is bequeathed upon us the week before. That can be as random as anything. Some of the subjects are great. Some of them are, I'm not as big a fan of. They're difficult, but it's a nice, fun weekly show. And then my primary podcast is the Film Board. It's where I am also joined by a couple of other hosts that we swap in and out to discuss primarily the big new releases. I've had the pleasure of doing them with you, Krissy, where we discussed Morbius, which was a big new release. And Doctor Strange, both of which were questionable. But the next one up is the movie that I still believe is going to be a movie, Top Gun Maverick.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
I think it's just a preview. Only a preview.
My brother, because it was originally supposed to come out in 2019. My brother Logan did a bit to where it's like doing scenes from the movie, and everyone is just overtly. It's like, this isn't the 80s anymore. This is 2019, Maverick. Like just like constantly referring to 2019 in the scenes.
Nothing bad's gonna happen.
Yeah.
2019, everything's fine.
Exactly.
Everything will continue to be fine from this year on to next year.
Nothing's gonna change.
Nothing's gonna change. Yeah, I'm having a hard time with my list for this week, but we'll see. I already got my trailer in, so excited. Nathan, what can people do to support your filmmaking endeavors?
As usual, if you want to check out any of my past movie projects or very slowly tune in for future news, go to squishystudios.com or Squishy Studios on the Facebooks.
Yeah.
The interwebs.
You can find me on the interwebs at Most Excellent Krissy or at Most Excellent Pod or at the actual physical neighborhood comedy theater in downtown Mesa, Arizona, which in the time loop of things that are past but also future, in the future for us that are recording this, Nathan will be our guest on Friday night where he will tell stories that will inspire improv comedy. But you listening, that will have been in the past. So stay tuned to everything that the Neighborhood Comedy Theater is doing so you don't miss out on fun real life activities.
Time travel.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for listening. Do all the things where you like and you rate and you review and you pause. If you not pause, what am I like and review and
share?
Rate, share, subscribe.
Share? Yeah, what pause? I don't know. Don't pause. Tell a friend, do all of that stuff. Yeah. And please, when you're out there in the world, remember to keep the most excellent 80s movies podcast motto in mind and be excellent to each other and party on, dude. And then there should be a little tag at the end, right? Like, I would be back. I would be back. Or wait, what is it?
Don't be terminated, fuckers.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or get out.
Get out.
Get out.